You ever had 5 professionals tell you something was dead, and then one broke dude proves all of them wrong? Yeah, this is one of those stories. It started on a cold Tuesday morning. Gray sky, light drizzle, the kind of weather that just feels expensive. Rachel Carter stepped out of her matte gray Aston Martin, heels clicking against the pavement like she owned the entire block. Which technically she did. She was the regional director for one of the biggest luxury dealership chains in the state. Money, not a problem. Reputation, untouchable. Ego, yeah, that was there too. She adjusted her blazer, glanced at her watch, and sighed. 5 dealerships, she muttered. 5. Every single one had told her the same thing. Transmission's gone, needs a full replacement. $30,000. Minimum. And the worst part, none of them could even explain why it failed. Just vague answers, shrugs, corporate talk. That didn't sit right with her. Not at all. Now here's where things get interesting. Because instead of going to a 6th luxury dealership, she pulled up to a place that didn't even look like it should still be open. A small garage. Faded sign. Half the letters missing. Eddie's Auto. No website. No branding. No glass showroom. Just grease, tools, and silence. Inside, Eddie was under a car, wrench in hand, radio barely working in the background. Mid-30s. Worn jeans. Oil-stained shirt. The kind of guy people overlook without even realizing it. Single dad. 2 jobs. Barely keeping the lights on. But hands. His hands knew machines like they were alive. Rachel stepped inside, instantly uncomfortable. "Hello," she called out, looking around like she might catch something. Eddie slid out from under the car, wiping his hands. "Yeah," he said calmly, "what you got?" No smile. No fake customer service tone. Just straight. She gestured outside. "That car, it's been checked by 5 certified dealerships. Transmission is dead." Eddie nodded slowly. "Okay. That was it." No reaction. No impressed look. Nothing. Rachel crossed her arms. "I'm not here for guesses. I just want confirmation before I replace it." Eddie looked at her for a second, then said something that made her eyebrows tighten just a little. "Or you want to know what's actually wrong with it?" Silence. The kind that hits your pride first. She let out a short laugh. "You seriously think you found something Aston Martin engineers missed?" There it was. That tone. Sharp. Dismissive. Used to being right. Eddie didn't flinch. Didn't argue. Didn't defend himself. He just walked past her, grabbed his tools, and headed toward the car. "Pop the hood," he said. And for some reason, she did. Now outside, the car looked like a beast. Elegant. Powerful. Untouchable. The kind of machine that screams money without making a sound. Eddie circled it once. Listening. Watching. Feeling. Like the car was telling him a story. Rachel leaned against the wall, arms crossed. Watching him like he was about to embarrass himself. "You've got 10 minutes, she said. Eddie ignored that too. Got inside. Turned the ignition. The engine roared to life. But something was off. Subtle. Almost invisible. But to Eddie, it was loud. He pressed the accelerator slightly. Paused. Listened again. Then shut it off. Walked back out. Opened the hood. And just stared. 5 minutes passed. Rachel checked her watch. Annoyed. Time's almost up. Eddie finally spoke. Calm, certain. "It's not your transmission." She blinked. "What?" He pointed inside the engine bay. "You've got a pressure sink issue between the control module and the hydraulic system." She just stared at him. Completely blank. because not one dealership had said anything even close to that. That's not possible, she said slowly. They ran full diagnostics. Eddie nodded. Yeah, on the wrong problem. That sentence, that's where everything changed. Rachel stepped closer now. Not confident anymore. Curious. Explain. Eddie leaned against the car. You've got a faulty sensor feeding bad data. System thinks the transmission's failing, so it reacts like it is. He paused. But it's not actually broken. Silence again. But this time, it wasn't pride. It was doubt. Fix it, she said. Eddie shook his head. Not yet. Now she frowned. What do you mean, not yet? He looked her straight in the eyes for the first time. Because if I'm right, you're about to have a much bigger problem than a broken transmission. And just like that, the air changed. Rachel felt it. That tiny shift in her chest. That feeling you get when something doesn't add up. What kind of problem? She asked quietly. Eddie wiped his hands slowly. Someone has been inside your car's system. And boom. Just like that. This wasn't about a car anymore. This was about something else entirely. Someone has been inside your car's system. Rachel didn't move. Didn't blink. Didn't even breathe for a second. Because that sentence, it didn't just sound wrong. It sounded dangerous. She let out a quiet scoff, trying to hold onto control. That's not possible, she said. This car is encrypted, factory secured. Eddie tilted his head slightly. Yeah, it was. That hit different. Rachel stepped closer now, heels clicking slower this time. Less confidence. More tension. What exactly are you saying? Eddie walked over to his tool bench, grabbed a small diagnostic tablet. Old, scratched, definitely not something you'd expect in a place like this. But when he plugged it into her car, the screen lit up instantly. Fast. Too fast. He tapped a few things. Scrolled. Paused. Then turned the screen toward her. See this? She leaned in. Numbers. Codes. Live data streams. But one thing stood out. A signal pinging. Every few seconds. What is that? She asked. Eddie's voice stayed calm. That's not from your car. Silence. That's an external access loop, he continued. Something's connecting, reading data and feeding commands back in. Rachel's stomach dropped. Are you telling me? Eddie finished it for her. Yeah, someone's watching your car. And just like that, everything got real. She stepped back, shaking her head. No, that doesn't make sense. Why would anyone? Because you're not just anyone, are you? Eddie cut in. That stopped her. Because he was right. She was. Rachel Carter wasn't just some random customer. She controlled multi-million-dollar inventory. Deals. Contracts. Supply chains. She had access to things most people didn't even know existed. And suddenly, this wasn't about a broken car. This was about her. Can you trace it? She asked, her voice lower now. Eddie didn't answer right away. He was already working. Fingers moving. Eyes locked in. Yeah, he said finally. But you're not gonna like where it leads. Rachel crossed her arms again. But this time, it wasn't confidence. It was defense. Try me. Eddie turned the screen back to himself. Ran a deeper scan. Bypassed something. Then something else. A warning flashed. Access restricted. Eddie smirked slightly. Cute. He bypassed that too. More data flooded in. Then suddenly, he stopped. Rachel noticed immediately. What? Eddie leaned back slowly. Exhaled. Then looked at her. You ever heard of internal shadow audits? Her face changed. Just a little. But enough. Yeah, she said carefully. Eddie nodded. Then you already know what this is. Silence. Heavy. Because shadow audits. They weren't public. They weren't legal, at least not officially. And they definitely weren't something you'd run through someone's car. They think you're hiding something, Eddie said. Rachel laughed. But it wasn't real. That's ridiculous. Eddie didn't react. Just turned the screen again. This time showing a file. Encrypted. But labeled. Carter tracking active. And just like that, her world cracked. That's not, she whispered. Eddie cut in quietly. That's not a guess. She stepped back again. Mind racing now. Fast. Too fast. Because suddenly, everything from the past few weeks started lining up. Weird calls. Delayed approvals. Deals getting blocked for no reason. People acting different. They're building a case on you, Eddie said. Rachel looked at him sharply. For what? Eddie shrugged slightly. Don't know yet. Then paused. But whatever it is, they don't trust you. Silence again. But this time, it felt like pressure. Like the walls were closing in. Rachel turned away, running a hand through her hair. This is insane. Eddie unplugged the device. Maybe. Then added. But your car didn't end up here by accident. She turned back. What's that supposed to mean? Eddie looked around his garage. Small, quiet, invisible to the world. Places like this, he said. We don't show up on systems. That hit. No cameras. No corporate logs. No digital trail. Which meant this was the only place she could have come. Without being watched. And suddenly, coming here didn't feel random anymore. It felt like instinct. Rachel looked at Eddie differently now. Not like some random mechanic. But like something else. Who are you? She asked. Eddie didn't answer right away. Just wiped his hands again. Same calm energy. Same unreadable face. Guy who fixes things, he said. She narrowed her eyes. Yeah, you're more than that. A small pause. Then Eddie finally looked at her properly. Used to work systems, he said. Not cars. Now that changed everything. Rachel stepped closer. How deep is this? Eddie's answer. Cold. Simple. Real. Deep enough that if we don't shut it down. He looked back at the car. You're not just losing your job. A beat. You're losing everything. And just like that, the stakes skyrocketed. You're losing everything. That sentence didn't just hang in the air. It stayed there. Heavy. Uncomfortable. Real. Rachel didn't respond right away. Because for the first time in a long time, she didn't have control of the situation. Okay, she finally said, voice tight. Then we shut it down. Eddie shook his head slowly. It's not that simple. Of course it was. It never is. Why? She snapped, frustration creeping in now. Eddie leaned against the car, arms crossed. Because the second that signal drops. He looked straight at her. Whoever's watching you will know. And there it was again. That shift. That cold realization creeping in. Rachel swallowed. So what, you're saying we just let them spy on me? Eddie exhaled slowly. No, I'm saying we play it smart. Before she could respond, a car pulled up outside. Both of them froze. It wasn't loud. Wasn't dramatic. Just a simple black sedan rolling to a stop across the street. But something about it felt wrong. Eddie's eyes flicked toward the window. Sharp. Focused. Different now. Rachel noticed immediately. What? She whispered. Eddie didn't answer. He just watched. The engine of the sedan stayed running. No one got out. No movement. Just sitting there. And suddenly, the garage didn't feel so invisible anymore. "How long have they been able to track me?" Rachel asked, her voice barely above a whisper now. Eddie didn't look away from the car. "Long enough to know you're here." That hit like a punch. Rachel's heart started racing. No, that's not possible. You said this place doesn't show up on systems," Eddie cut in quietly. Then added, "But you do." Silence, because she got it. Finally, it wasn't the location. It was her. The car. Her phone. Her digital footprint. Everything. And now, she led them straight here. "Damn it," she whispered, pacing slightly. "What do we do?" Eddie finally moved, walked over to the garage door, and casually flipped the sign from open to closed. Locked it, then turned off half the lights. The atmosphere shifted instantly. From normal to something else. "What are you doing?" Rachel asked. Eddie walked back calmly. "Buying us time." Outside, the sedan door opened. Rachel's breath caught. A man stepped out. Suit, clean, professional, the kind of guy who didn't belong in places like this. He looked around once. Then his eyes landed directly on the garage. Like he already knew. "Eddie," Rachel whispered. But Eddie was already moving. Fast, focused. He grabbed something from his toolbox. A small device. Custom built. Definitely not standard mechanic equipment. "What is that?" she asked. Eddie plugged it into the car again. "This," he said calmly. "This is how we flip the script." Outside, the man started walking toward the garage. Slow, confident, no hesitation. Like he'd done this before. Inside, Eddie's fingers moved fast across the device. Code running. Signals shifting. Rachel stood frozen, watching everything fall apart in real time. "What are you doing?" she asked again, urgency rising. Eddie didn't look up. "I'm giving them something to look at." The device beeped once. Outside, the man stopped. Mid-step, he reached into his pocket, pulled out his phone, checked something, frowned. Eddie smirked slightly. "Yeah, that's right." Rachel stared. "What did you do?" Eddie finally looked at her. For the next few minutes, he nodded toward her car. "Your car's telling them you're still driving." Silence. Then it clicked. "You spoofed the signal," she said. Eddie shrugged. "Something like that." Outside, the man looked confused now. Turned slightly, looking down the street. Because according to his system, Rachel Carter wasn't here anymore. She was moving. Fast. And just like that, the hunter got blindfolded. Rachel let out a breath she didn't even realize she was holding. "Okay," she said slowly. "Okay, that buys us time." Eddie nodded. "Not much." Outside, the man hesitated. Then slowly, he stepped back toward his car. Still unsure. Still checking his phone. Then finally, he got in. The sedan pulled away. And just like that, the immediate danger gone. But the real problem, still very much alive. Inside the garage, silence took over again. Rachel leaned against the car, processing everything. Fast, messy, unreal. "You just hacked a live tracking system," she said. Eddie shrugged again. "Yeah." She looked at him differently now. Not curiosity. Not doubt. Respect. "Yeah, you're definitely not just a mechanic." Eddie didn't respond, just unplugged the device. But here's the thing, he said after a moment. They're not gonna stop. Rachel nodded slowly. I know. Then she looked at him. Serious. Focused. So we hit back. That made Eddie pause. Because that wasn't fear talking anymore. That was something else. What exactly do you have in mind? He asked. Rachel's eyes hardened slightly. If they're building a case on me. She crossed her arms. Then I want to know what they think they found. Eddie studied her for a second, then gave a small nod. All right. He picked up his device again. Then we go deeper. And just like that. So we go deeper. That line, it sounded simple. But what it really meant was dangerous. Because going deeper doesn't just uncover truth. It exposes people, secrets, lies, and sometimes things you wish you never found. Eddie set his device on the workbench again. But this time, he wasn't just scanning the car. He was going past it. You got internal access? He asked without looking up. Rachel hesitated. Just for a second. Yeah, she said. But it's monitored. Eddie nodded. Of course it is. He slid the device toward her. Then we don't use yours. She frowned. What does that mean? Eddie pulled out an old laptop from under the bench. Scratched. Beat up. Looked like it barely survived the last decade. But when he opened it, the screen lit up instantly. Clean. Sharp. Alive. This isn't gonna be official, Eddie said. Rachel stepped closer. What are we looking for? Eddie cracked his knuckles slightly. Anything with your name on it. And just like that, they crossed the line. He started typing. Fast. Efficient. No wasted movement. Firewalls popped up. Gone. Encryption layers. Bypassed. Rachel watched in silence. Because this wasn't normal. This wasn't some former IT guy. This was something else entirely. Who did you use to work for? She asked quietly. Eddie didn't stop typing. People who don't ask twice. That answer told her everything she needed to know. Then suddenly, he stopped. Rachel leaned in. What did you find? Eddie's eyes narrowed slightly. Yeah. He turned the screen toward her. A file. Locked. Hidden deep. Internal case file, priority read. Below that, a name. Rachel Carter. Her breath caught. No, she whispered. Eddie clicked it. Password prompt. He cracked it in seconds. File opened. Pages of reports. Logs. Internal messages. And then, a section labeled Evidence Summary. Rachel started reading. Fast. Her face changed instantly. Because this wasn't random. It was specific. Detailed. Carefully built. They're accusing me of leaking inventory data, she said slowly. Eddie nodded. Yeah. She shook her head. That's insane, I didn't. Wait, Eddie said. He scrolled further down. Then stopped. Yeah, this part you're really not gonna like. Rachel looked at him. Then at the screen. A name appeared. Authorization, Daniel Cross. Silence. Dead silence. Rachel didn't move. Didn't blink. Didn't react. Because that name. It hit different. No, she said quietly. Eddie glanced at her. You know him. She let out a breath. But it wasn't stable. Yeah, she said. He's my boss. And just like that, everything made sense. Or maybe, nothing did. That's not possible, she said, shaking her head now. He's the one who promoted me. Eddie leaned back slightly. Yeah. She looked at him, frustration rising. This wasn't survival anymore. This was war. So we go deeper. That line, it sounded simple, but what it really meant was dangerous. Because going deeper doesn't just uncover truth. It exposes people, secrets, lies, and sometimes things you wish you never found. Eddie set his device on the workbench again. But this time, he wasn't just scanning the car. He was going past it. You got internal access? He asked without looking up. Rachel hesitated. Just for a second. Yeah, she said. But it's monitored. Eddie nodded. Of course it is. He slid the device toward her. Then we don't use yours. She frowned. What does that mean? Eddie pulled out an old laptop from under the bench. Scratched. Beat up. Looked like it barely survived the last decade. But when he opened it, the screen lit up instantly. Clean. Sharp. Alive. This isn't gonna be official, Eddie said. Rachel stepped closer. What are we looking for? Eddie cracked his knuckles slightly. Anything with your name on it. And just like that, they crossed the line. He started typing. Fast. Efficient. No wasted movement. Firewalls popped up. Gone. Encryption layers. Bypassed. Rachel watched in silence. Because this wasn't normal. This wasn't some former IT guy. This was something else entirely. Who did you use to work for? She asked quietly. Eddie didn't stop typing. People who don't ask twice. That answer told her everything she needed to know. Then suddenly, he stopped. Rachel leaned in. What did you find? Eddie's eyes narrowed slightly. Yeah. He turned the screen toward her. A file. Locked. Hidden deep. Internal case file, priority read. Below that, a name. Rachel Carter. Her breath caught. No, she whispered. Eddie clicked it. Password prompt. He cracked it in seconds. File opened. Pages of reports. Logs. Internal messages. And then, a section labeled Evidence Summary. Rachel started reading. Fast. Her face changed instantly. Because this wasn't random. It was specific. Detailed. Carefully built. They're accusing me of leaking inventory data, she said slowly. Eddie nodded. Yeah. She shook her head. That's insane, I didn't. Wait, Eddie said. He scrolled further down. Then stopped. Yeah, this part you're really not gonna like. Rachel looked at him. Then at the screen. A name appeared. Authorization, Daniel Cross. Silence. Dead silence. Rachel didn't move. Didn't blink. Didn't react. Because that name. It hit different. No, she said quietly. Eddie glanced at her. You know him. She let out a breath. But it wasn't stable. Yeah, she said. He's my boss. And just like that, everything made sense. Or maybe nothing did. That's not possible, she said, shaking her head now. He's the one who promoted me. Eddie leaned back slightly. Yeah. She looked at him, frustration rising. You don't promote someone just to destroy them. Eddie gave her a look. Cold. Real. You do if you need a fall guy. That landed hard. Rachel stepped back, mind racing again. Because suddenly, every opportunity, every deal, every decision she'd made recently, was it hers? Or was it planted? They set me up, she whispered. Eddie didn't answer, because he didn't need to. The proof was right there. But why, she snapped. What do they gain from this? Eddie scrolled again. Deeper, further. Then he found it. Another file. Hidden, encrypted heavier than the rest. He cracked it slower this time. More careful. Then opened it. And that's when everything changed. Because inside wasn't just data. It was a list. High-value vehicles. Secret transfers. Off-record shipments. Millions. No. Hundreds of millions. Rachel stared. What is that? Eddie's voice dropped. Black inventory. She looked at him. Confused. He explained. Cars that don't officially exist in the system. Her stomach dropped again. Moved quietly, sold privately, no paper trail. Rachel shook her head. No, our company doesn't do that. Eddie looked at her. Your company does. A bit. But someone inside it does. And suddenly, Daniel Cross didn't just look suspicious. He looked guilty. They're using me to cover this, Rachel said. Eddie nodded. Yeah. She paced now. Faster. Angrier. If this goes public, I'm finished. Eddie corrected her. No. She stopped. You're not finished, he said. Then looked back at the screen. You're framed. That word hit harder than anything else. Because it wasn't about failure anymore. It was about survival. Rachel turned to him. Eyes sharp now. Focused. Can we prove it? Eddie leaned back. Thinking. Yeah, he said slowly. Then added. But once we do. He looked at her seriously. There's no going back. Silence. Rachel didn't hesitate this time. Good. And just like that, she made her choice. Not to run. Not to hide.